Morning, Pete, North Las Vegas. Out here north of Las Vegas, one of my favorite spots in the desert. And I have two of my LR308s out here with two S-TACs that we need to get sighted in. So I thought we'd talk about the scopes a little bit, and then we'll talk about the rifles and something that I kind of recently discovered with the ammunition I've been using. So I've had this one for quite a few years, and this is the second focal plane. The second focal plane has parallax down to 10 yards and comes with capped turrets. And this uses what's called an MOA2 reticle. And it's just a basic duplex with 2 MA subtensions and holdovers. There's no ranging, there's nothing fancy going on with this. It's a very basic reticle, but I kind of like it. For those of you that aren't familiar with S-TACs, they have their own little built-in levers. Okay, so I recently bought this one. This is their first focal plane version, and same magnification. This one also focuses down to 10 yards. This particular first focal plane model comes with exposed turrets. Has illumination, but it's not daytime bright. It's pretty good. I mean, it'll get you by, but it's not daytime bright. And this uses what's called their MOA5 reticle. And so I think that's the basics on the scopes. They use Japanese glass. They're made in the Philippines. Sightron kind of flies under the radar. They have some really high-end stuff, $3,000 plus scopes. And these are what I consider mid-range for Sightron. And then they have more budget-friendly stuff too. Now, as far as I know, everything they make uses Japanese glass. I'm not 100% on that, but that seems to be what I've been able to figure out online anyway. All right, let's talk about the rifles. Okay, before we get to the rifle, something I forgot to mention about the first focal plane is it has this external ring for zero stop, which I think is a unique feature. I don't know of any other scope manufacturer that does their zero stop this way. So both these rifles are identical, both these LR308s, and this is a pet peeve of mine. These are not AR10s. There are very, very few parts that are interchangeable between a DPMS pattern and an AR10. And so many people on YouTube and different platforms refer to these DPMS patterns as AR10s. They're not AR10s. When DPMS first came up with these, they called them LR308s. If you have a different caliber, like a 6.5 Creedmoor, maybe you want to call it an LR6.5, an LR30-06, an LR whatever you got. But these are not AR10s. It's a pet peeve of mine. This particular DPMS pattern is what's called the low pattern, where the height of the rails sits lower, and then on the high pattern, it sits a little higher. And this area here on the high pattern is a little bit thicker. So if you're not as concerned about weight and you want something a little bit more robust, maybe the high pattern is the way for you to go. I picked low pattern for these. An example of a high pattern is Aero Precision, their M5. That uses a high pattern DPMS receiver. So I put extended A2s on these builds, thinking maybe I would get a little extra compensation. Probably not enough to notice or matter, but that was the idea. This one uses a Parkerized jam nut. This one here uses a stainless. As I go down what I did with these rifles, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty as to why I did everything. I have two separate build playlists on these rifles where I really get into the weeds and details on why I did certain things and how I finally eventually got these things running 100% in all types of temperatures and ammunition. And it was a journey. And I've built a lot of AR-15s, and I had no idea just how picky and finicky these large caliber platforms can be. But it was a real learning experience. All right, barrels. Wilson Combat Tactical Hunter, 18-inch. So they got kind of an oddball twist rate, 11.25. Supposed to be optimal for 110 all the way up to 168 grain. I'm running rifle speed adjustable gas. When I got the Wilson Combat barrels, they came in about 0.86, 0.87 on the gas port size. I ended up having to drill those out to 0.092. And I'm using the smallest, shortest plunger on the rifle speeds, which is 0.887. So 0.887 on the plunger, 0.092, enlarging the gas port. The rifle speeds use a straight gas tube. You can't use a bent gas tube with a rifle speed. Nobody at the time when I was building these offered a straight gas tube at the Armalite spec of 15.5 inches. And I ended up going to White Oak Armament and having gas tubes custom built at the length that I needed. And so my first one, I went with 15.4 on the gas tube length, just to make sure that, you know, I wasn't going to have any interference with the bolt carrier and the gas key and smashing parts. And then once I ran that for a while, I realized I had plenty of clearance. And on the second build, I went with the actual Armalite spec of 15.5 inches on the gas tube. So this one has a 15.4 in it. This one has a 15.5. And I'm running New Frontier Armory receivers. And I don't know what's going on with them. They had a really nice brick and mortar. They relocated to another spot. Then they shut down. Then it was online only. Then they shut down their online. And then I got a notification that they're back online, but no brick and mortar. And they were a local company here. They did all their own machining. And both these receivers were very snug, very tight fits. Everything was in spec. No issues with the receivers. So as far as what's going on with them on the business end, I really don't know. Okay, so we talked about the rifle speed, talked about the gas port. I'm running Wilson Combat. These are high pressure bolt designs. They have a reduced diameter on the firing pin hole on the bolt and a reduced diameter firing pin. And this is to help prevent primer flow, cratering, and pop primers. And it's not as much an issue on 308, but my understanding is that when you get to 6.5 Creedmoor, that's when you started running into trouble with the standard 308 design BCG. So when they say high pressure design, it has nothing to do with the ammunition and what pressures you're running on the ammunition. It was something they came up with to stop cratering and pop primers. And why they decided to call it a high pressure bolt design, I don't know. That's kind of confusing. I started out with an Aero Precision mil-spec shorty buffer system, and I ran into a lot of problems. So I ended up going with a heavy buffers carbine setup, and their buffer went to 6.5 ounces. And the rifles after that started running perfect, but there was still pretty good punch to them. And so I decided to go with A5s. So I used a forward controlled designs tube, and I'm running heavy buffers standard carbine at 8.5 ounces and using a rifle length spring for the A5 system. Triggers on both of them are Wilson Combat, and I think that's pretty much it. Let's just start shooting. Let's get these scopes sighted in. Okay, I said I was going to talk about ammunition. This is what I'll be shooting today. What I wanted to show you guys was, this is a fired AAC, non-fired AAC. This is Lake City, loaded to NATO specs, M80. And this is also NATO, this is Hertenberg. Now, take a look at the primers. You can see that the actual NATO and the Winchester loaded to NATO versus the fired AAC and the non-fired AAC. When I fired this and I looked at that primer, I thought, man, that thing looks really flat, like maybe I'm still running a little bit too much gas on these rifles. And then I compared it to the fired AAC. And you can see that the primer on the brand new AAC is also flat looking and doesn't look any different than this other than the primer strike. So then I looked at the NATO primers, and you can see they have a nice radius on the top, and they don't look flattened out. So the reason I'm mentioning this is because when I first started firing these new LR308s, I thought maybe I still had an overpressure problem, but I don't. It's just the way AAC makes their ammunition. Now, I don't know where they're getting their primers, or how they're loading them. Maybe when they put the ammunition together, they flattened out the primer a little bit when they made the ammunition. But I bought this stuff about a year ago, so I just kind of wanted to mention that if you're using AAC and you think you've got a flattened primer, you may not have one, or if you do have a flattened primer, it may not be the rifle. All right, let's shoot. Okay, on the bolt carrier group, I forgot to mention 18.6 ounces. Okay, I haven't made up my mind yet. 36 yard zero or 50 yard. I'm thinking maybe for the kind of shooting I do, 36. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I'm shooting at 10 yards, so we should be somewhere 1.5 inches, 2 inches low from point of aim. This is the first focal plane. And we're definitely low. We may have to come up a little bit. Okay, brass looks good, just double checking. Unlikely anything changed since the last time I fired this rifle, but you never know. It's shooting about 2 o'clock, so I may turn the gas down a little bit, but I'll probably wait a couple of rounds. Just could be some extra oil in the gas tube or around a plunger or something. So we'll wait a little while before we start messing with the gas. Let's go down and check the target. Okay, so at 10 yards, that's about where we want to be. Maybe a little bit lower, but we're on paper. So let's get it out to 50 yards and get this thing sighted in. Couldn't hear it beep. Okay, I decided on a 36 yard zero. I was kind of going back and forth on it, but that's what we're doing. Okay, so just as I suspected, that's where the second round came out, so that's like perfect for me. Well, I'm not sure why we're hitting in the same exact spot. That seems kind of odd. I stacked them on top of each other. Okay, so I just went up 12 clicks. Probably not enough, but let's see where we're hitting now. Okay, so that was after 12 clicks, and it looks like I got to start coming to the left. So we'll go another 12 clicks and maybe 4 over to the left, see what happens. All right, I made a bunch more clicks. Maybe we're in the neighborhood. Let's find out. Just a little bit more. We're almost there. Okay, so I came up like another 10 clicks. And I'm not sure where this thing was set from in the box. I didn't really check it, so they must have had it buried, because I got plenty more turns to go. Okay, we're there. And with the price of 308 these days, I'm not worried about confirming that, because each adjustment I walked it in, we got to where I needed to be. I'm going to start in on a second rifle off camera, and then maybe some final thoughts. Okay, so we got our second rifle out, and this is my older S-TAC, second focal plane. Got a fresh bullseye, taped up all the old holes, and I won't bore you guys with all the in-between. I'll just show you the end results once I get it zeroed in. Okay, so how did we do on rifle number 2? This was my 10-yard see where we're at shot. These were, I don't know how to shoot shots. I made some adjustments and started grouping pretty good up here. These first 2 shots, I made some about 4 clicks down, and I only came down this far, so I thought, okay, you know what? I'm gonna go 8 clicks down, I think, if I remember. And then I ended up down here. So I probably should have went 6 clicks, and then I would have started punching the center. But like I was saying earlier in the video, the price of ammunition today, .308, that's good enough for me. We'll do better next time out on rifle number 2. And anyway, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Pete, North Las Vegas, over and out.